Hi, I'm Peter Singer. I'm Professor of Bioethics at Princeton University, and I'm going to be teaching the course Practical Ethics. My background is in philosophy, and in particular I've been working in practical ethics for many years. I've worked in a number of different areas. One of my better known books is Animal Liberation, which deals with the ethics of how we ought to be treating animals. I've also written on life and death questions in a book called Rethinking Life and Death. I've written a general book called Practical Ethics, which is part of the content of this course. And more recently I've written a book called The Life You Can Save, which is about the ethics of contributing to reduce global poverty for people who are able to do so, people living in affluent countries, asking what are the obligations of those who have more money than they really need in the face of a world in which there are people living in extreme poverty. So those are some of the issues that we're going to be talking about in Practical Ethics over the coming weeks. We'll go into these questions in more detail, looking at all of these issues, starting off with an introduction to ethics to ask, what is ethics? And looking at some of the major ethical theories like utilitarianism, deontological theories, theories of rights, and so on. Then we'll move to those questions about life and death decisions, including questions about abortion, questions about euthanasia, whether there's a difference between omitting treatment that leads to the death of a patient or actively ending that patient's life. We'll then go on to questions about the obligations of the wealthy to the global poor, and also ethical questions about your choice of career. How do you decide what you're going to do with your life if you're at that stage of your life? What are the ethical implications of making different career choices? And we're going to meet some people who are living different lives and doing a great deal for charities and organizations that are helping the global poor. After that, we will talk about the ethics of our treatment of animals. We'll talk about that both in terms of basic ethical principles, and then we'll talk about the ethics of using animals in research, and we will talk about living ethically in terms of our choices about what we eat. What are the ethics of the food that we choose to buy and put on our plate? We'll then ask whether ethics extends not only beyond humans to animals, but also beyond animals to things that are not even sentient. For example, to plants, perhaps to endangered plants. What is the value of protecting endangered species? And should we be protecting forests and ecological systems for their own sake, even apart from the benefits that they bring to humans and to animals? As we get near the end of the course, we'll be looking at affirmative action. Should institutions like this, Princeton University, be preferring to take people of a racial or ethnic minority group rather than somebody who perhaps did just slightly better on the admission tests, scored better on that, but does not bring the diversity to campus that people from a minority might do. And in the very last of the classes, we're going to ask, why should we act ethically anyway? If we've learned a little bit about what ethics is and what it is to act ethically, then what do we do with that? Is it automatic that we then act that way? Do we need reasons for acting that way? And if so, what would those reasons be? The nature of the course is that each week there will be 2 large lectures taking place in this room that is behind me. And as well, for the Princeton students who are here, each one of them takes part in a once-weekly discussion group that at Princeton is traditionally called a precept. In some other universities it may be called a discussion section or a tutorial. But the idea is that you have a small group of people, not more than a dozen, who can discuss the issues that are talked about in the large lectures more intensively with either myself or a teaching assistant, usually a graduate student in a related subject. Although, of course, you won't be able to participate in the actual precepts that we have at Princeton, you will have the opportunity to participate in discussions in various ways. There will be discussion forums for you to discuss with each other. You will also be able to submit a question on video, and although we're not going to be able to answer all of your questions, we will answer what we think of as representative questions that a lot of you are interested in getting answered. There are also going to be some quizzes. We're breaking up the lectures, which here at Princeton run for 50 minutes, but we're going to break them up into sections and give you some little quiz questions to make sure that you're following along well with what I've been saying. And if you're not, then you can go back over what you've just listened to. In addition, you will be able to submit written work, as the Princeton students have written essays or papers to submit. You will be able to submit written work, and we will have a system of peer assessment so that you will be graded by your fellow students, and you will also grade your fellow students, and that will give you an indication of how you're going in your written work. So there are quite a few ways in which you can participate in this course, and we're looking forward to your involvement in it, as well as, of course, hoping that you will get a lot out of the questions, the discussions that we're having, and that it will help you to clarify your own values and also to perhaps challenge you on some of the ethical views that you have, to think about whether you're right, whether maybe you might want to live a little bit differently after taking this course. That's certainly a possibility, and I do hope that you'll enjoy it and find it intellectually stimulating. Thank you.